Okay. Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining me for the How to Care for Yourself webinar. We're really going to focus on self-care this time. So my name is Alina Sarati. I am the Heart AmeriCorps Program Coordinator. I will be the speaker for today. Feel free to type them into the chat box. I'll be answering all questions at the end of this webinar. And just to let you all know, this webinar will be recorded and sent out through email next week. So don't worry about frantically writing down everything that's on each slide. Also with that, if you ever need to come back to this information, you'll have it as a resource. So again, if you have any questions, feel free to type them in the chat box and I'll get to them at the very end, okay? Okay, so for today's agenda, we're going to focus on the impact that you made through your service term as a collective group of AmeriCorps members with Equal Heart. We're going to reflect on what that means. And then we're also going to talk about ways of self-care for during your AmeriCorps service as you finish up your couple last weeks, or a couple days for a couple of you, and then also self-care just for in the future, because it is very important. So let's talk about, impact numbers. So for all of my members that do feeding programs, whether that is after school meals, not after school meals, that's summer meals, going on the van every day to take it to a certain location, or if you're already at one location and you feed the children there, we are projected to serve 1.3 million meals this summer. That is just for this summer. So really thinking about how every day you're serving maybe 10 to 15, maybe 30 children their meals, breakfast and lunch, how big of an impact that's truly making whenever everybody makes a small difference, and how it's really growing to be a huge impact. So we are projected to hit just about, we're hitting 300 members, AmeriCorps members, and we have 44 partners in 18 states. We are projected to hit 100, a little over 100,000 member hours served, which is a huge goal for all of us, considering that the hours that you serve are technically community service. So it's so great to be able to say that we have so many hours attributed to just people committed to making a difference in the community. Okay, so the largest part about this is that I definitely want us to reflect on the service terms that you are about to complete. So 3 things that I want us to be looking at is the what, so what, and what's next. So focusing on what, ask yourself, like, what did you do every day? I know it sounds kind of simple, but sometimes you get so caught up in the day-to-day that it's you kind of forget what happened from the day-to-day. So what were your main projects? So if your main project was feeding children and helping them with their academic success, do you feel like you did that? Did you feel like you did that adequately? Are there things that maybe you feel like were really tough to do, or maybe weeks that were really stressful? Why were they stressful? Also, I want you to be thinking about, like, were there things that maybe should have been done differently, or maybe you feel like it could have been done more efficiently? If so, what are those things and what are your solutions to them? Along with that comes the so what. So also analyzing your service experience. What did you learn? What did you master? Why does it matter? So in our previous slide showing you the impact, beside every single member committing to make a difference in the community and also committing to serve their total amount of hours, we wouldn't be able to hit the numbers that we did and be able to serve and capacity that we did this past summer. It really shows the commitment that we have to that we all have towards making a difference in the community, but also a commitment that we have to continuing to make change for the good. So definitely thinking about, how was your service? What did you learn? What matters at the end of the day? What did you really like? What didn't you like? All those things really matter. So then, what's next? So what about your AmeriCorps experience is going to shape your future actions? It might be nothing, you might already be on the plan to be volunteering. You might already be really active in the community. Maybe that's why you were interested in doing an AmeriCorps term in the beginning. So maybe you just continue on doing what you're already doing. Or maybe by doing your AmeriCorps term, you started to realize some of the bigger problems in the Dallas area and you're committed to making change that way. So maybe your next thing is volunteering more, maybe getting more aware, or really being an advocate for change, which we talked quite a bit about in our previous webinar. So with those 3 things in your head kind of leading your reflection, you're able to really be able to figure out what are your next steps. What can you further address? What issues are not covered by what you did during your service? There might be questions that really require a deeper reflection. Maybe, this is something, it opened your eyes to something a lot larger, and maybe now you're interested in changing, your career, or maybe you're interested in changing your major. I've had quite a bit of AmeriCorps members do an education role with an AmeriCorps term and find out that maybe accounting isn't the major that they want to go through. Maybe they actually want to become a teacher, or, they realize that, maybe teaching isn't for them. Actually, they get in a classroom and find out that it wasn't as enjoyable as what they thought it might be. So although a career change or a major change it's not going to happen for everybody. It might happen for a couple people, and being able to reflect on why that happened and really understanding the why behind things could be really, really useful, especially in figuring out what your next step is going to be and maybe what you're more interested about. So diving into self-care. So these are some things that really are helpful by really taking care of yourself and understanding your emotional needs and your social needs. So you're avoiding burnout, you're more productive, more rewarding and successful AmeriCorps experience, and you're less stressed. And I know it's AmeriCorps experience, but this can go for any job that you're at or anything that you're facing in life. This can also be applied to for any full-time or even part-time students in school. That this definitely can apply to you as well. So let's look at the first one, burnout. So we definitely want to be, don't want to be doing so much to where we realize that, all we're doing is maybe just focusing on our service or focusing on our job, focusing on work. You have to have a work and social life and personal life balance, being able to tend to your needs as well as being able to make sure everything's done at your job. So very important to manage that. You're more productive, however, you are less stressed. You're able to have a clear mind and being able to just really focus on the tasks that are on hand. More rewarding and successful experience no matter where you're at. Just because, of course, if you are not, if you're meeting your basic needs and then going beyond that to be able to really take care of your emotional needs as well, you're just overall going to just be more in tune with how you're doing and just better with, how you feel your service is going, and you'll be able to be more honest with yourself at the very end. So along with that, you'll be less stressed, which is always a great thing. Okay, so let's look a little more deeply into burnout. So I thought this cartoon was perfect for it. So according to the latest research, the average human body is 20% water and 80% stress. So we definitely want to bring that 80% down, right? So as stress-free as we can possibly be would be great. We know that there's things in life that naturally just causes us to stress out, whether it's tests, whether it's moving, whether it's change, financial situations, whatever it might be. Definitely can cause stress within your life. So some causes of burnout, like we talked about before, are just really maybe overcommitting yourself to your job, or maybe just a lot of things going on that just persist. So we have a lack of personal boundaries. So maybe you're always a yes person. Maybe whenever somebody needs to come in on the weekend to do work, you're always the first one to say, okay, yeah, I'll do it. But then in terms, you don't really get a weekend off. You don't really get time to go and appreciate the things that you like to do outside of work. There's also financial issues. So of course, if you are struggling to pay your light or pay your water bill and you still have to get to work, or if you can't afford to put gas in your car, but obviously you still need to get to work, it can become very stressful and kind of overloading to be able to, one, think about how you're going to make it day to day, but also to focus on the tasks at hand that are at work. Especially with an AmeriCorps service, I know how taxing and emotional it can be, just being an AmeriCorps member and, facing some of the struggles that people in the community are facing, and also helping them through their struggles themselves. So it's best if you come in level-headed and stress-free to be able to assist them with whatever needs they have. And then the next one, chronic personal struggles. So this can be whatever is following you in your life and whatever is, hindering you from being able to succeed. Sometimes it can be external factors, sometimes it can be internal factors, meaning sometimes it can be like not having transportation or not financially being stable, or it could be, being depressed, or it can be a wide range of things that could end up holding you back. But definitely dealing with the personal struggles that you have will help you be a more productive and also just a happier person throughout your service term and just throughout life in general. And then something else that can cause burnout is change. So it is always awful whenever you create something or you lead something and then it's immediately changed, either in the midst of you making something or directly after you finished a large project. So sometimes change can be definitely a big sign of burnout. So if you, let's say for example, you just got done writing an essay that was due and you're about to turn it into your professor, and then your professor says, oh, never mind, I no longer want an essay, I want a PowerPoint. You're gonna be annoyed because you just spent all this effort into trying to make a perfect essay, and you thought that you completed this perfect essay, and you're proud of it, and you're ready to turn it in, and now the whole thing changed, and now you're ready to start working on a PowerPoint. It's probably not going to be your best work because you made a perfect essay. So change can definitely lead to burnout, especially whenever you have change in managers happening frequently. You may be asked to take on more tasks. That can definitely cause a burnout, especially if you don't have lines of support. Definitely consider what we talked about in how to resolve conflicts and how to speak to your manager in a previous webinar if something like that does occur, but it can end up leading to burnout. Okay, so the next step of burnout is definitely recognizing it. So it's really hard to solve a problem if you don't know that a problem exists. So definitely recognizing whenever you're exhausted, whenever you feel like you haven't met your fulfillment, and definitely check in on your attitude throughout the day. So I know that I get hangry right around 11 o'clock. Yes, hungry, and angry. So whenever it's right around like 10:30, I will definitely like snack on something, so then my coworkers and myself don't have to deal with my with me being hungry and then me getting angry. And then that also helps with my exhaustion throughout the day. So instead of eating like a really heavy lunch and being like so tired afterwards, a little snack helps me eat a lighter lunch, and then I'm not completely tired at the like middle of the day. Along with that, also understanding that like it's summertime and majority of our AmeriCorps members are working outside. So maybe by the end of the day, you're just like worn, like the sun has worn you down, the heat has taken its toll. You know, you're just ready to get back into the van, or you're just ready to get back into your car and just start your ride back home or back to the warehouse, wherever the kids may be. Maybe you're exhausted by that point. Maybe, you know, the children that you see at the end of the day don't get the same quality as the children that you see at the beginning of the day, just because you're so tired by the end of the day. Definitely recognizing that and recognizing your attitude throughout the day and how it changes. It's really important. It's really important to check in on yourself and say, I really like this and this makes me feel good. Or if something doesn't make you feel good and you really don't like it, it's also taking note of that as well. Just one, to be able to communicate that effectively with your supervisor, but also so you know for yourself, like maybe you thought you're a really good team player and then you end up working with a team and you find out that it's actually that, you know, you kind of like being in charge of the team. You don't do too well having to take instructions from other people. So being able to understand exactly how you feel in different situations will definitely help you out understanding, you know, what to look for in the future. And AmeriCorps service is a great opportunity to get to know yourself, especially while working in a team and working sometimes with support, just kind of support that is there, but definitely giving you an opportunity to kind of do things on your own and figure things out on your own. It definitely gives you a chance to understand what you need out of a job. And then also understanding if you feel fulfilled. So maybe you don't feel fulfilled whenever you're, you know, not going and directly being involved in the community. Maybe you feel more fulfilled whenever you're helping volunteers, you know, pack boxes or visit children or whatever the case may be. But understanding what makes you feel fulfilled in your role is really important, because for a lot of people, that ends up being the reason why you end up staying with the job or end up staying through a service term. So my first term, I was really committed to being able to help the community, but extending on that, I really love the fact that whenever I would go out to the site to give boxes of food to families in need, that the families were there and they were always so thankful. A lot of them would hug me, a lot of them would shake my hand, or just like express that they were just so thankful for what we were doing and the food we were providing and the opportunities that we were giving them just by providing food. So that was the big reason that I continued to stay on, even though I had challenges that I faced throughout my AmeriCorps term, as everybody does. But I felt so fulfilled by being able to provide food for those families that's the end reason why I end up staying, and then the end reason why I end up doing another term. So definitely understanding, you know, why are you doing this and what are you gaining out of it? Okay, So cycles of service. So this happens to majority of our members, no matter if you recognized it or not. So very beginning, majority of our members, I'd say at least, are enthusiastic beginners. So you come into your term of service and you are excited and a little confused probably, and then you're going to orientation, you're meeting new people, you're seeing new facilities, you're getting to being on the job, maybe meeting the children for the first time, and then we kind of get in a week and a half into it, and you start having second thoughts. And you're thinking, when's that paycheck in here? And then you're thinking, I'm using a lot of gas to get over here. And then you're thinking, maybe my parents are getting tired of driving me to and from work every day. And then you just start thinking, do I really want to work with children? Do I really want to be in the heat all day? Just every negative thought that could go through your head is going through your head. So then you hit a little high area, and then you become a disillusional learner. So you kind of hit a standstill point. It's not anything exceptionally great. It's not anything exceptionally bad. You're learning. You're learning on the job what it means to be an AmeriCorps member, and also realizing the difficulties of the day-to-day. So you're kind of getting the ropes. Then as a contributor, you might lack confidence, but you're getting things done now. You're seeing the problems that you noticed while being a learner, and now you're actually facing those problems and addressing them. Maybe at the beginning of your service, you didn't really know how to handle a child when they're having discipline issues, and then as a delusional learner, you're like, oh, I can kind of handle this, and it still goes really bad. And then as a contributor, you're able, and you have a better understanding of how to speak to each particular student and what helps them calm down or helps them manage their anger, or whatever ends up being the solution for that problem. Although at the beginning you might lack confidence, you might think that, oh man, it's going to go as bad as what I did last time. But as you continue to practice more on resolving conflicts, as you continue to do your activities and your day-to-day functions, you'll begin to kind of grow into your service. You'll grow into the fact that, there were things that were big questions at the beginning, and now you easily can find the answer to. And I think it's easier shown whenever you might have somebody come in, like do a volunteer at your program, and they're asking you like, oh, how do you do this? And how do you do that? Or where is this? And, all those answers are at the top of your head because you've had the experience of working day in, day out, or serving day in, day out, to really know the organization and know the functions for the day-to-day activities. I always really appreciated seeing how much I grew within my service term. So whenever I first started working with children, that was one of my first times other than like babysitting, working with children. And I didn't really know how to like manage children that were like really distracted, or just like didn't want to read, or just like hated reading, would like throw the book, and I didn't know what to do at the beginning. I was definitely having second thoughts. So like the enthusiastic beginner, and then I was like, oh no, like what do I do? Like I don't know how to handle this. I don't have any classroom experience. And then I started learning, and I thankfully had another AmeriCorps member there that she had more experience with children than what I had, and she was able to teach me that, oh, well, try and get them engaged with a book that they're more interested in reading, or try and see if you can make it into like a time test, see how many words they can read in a minute, or just anything to get them engaged. And then after that, I started growing my confidence about how to handle each student and each situation. And by the end of it, we had a volunteer come in to work with the children, and one of the children was throwing a fit, and he didn't really want to read the book that the tutor was reading. So I went over and offered a couple suggestions and made a complete difference within the volunteer's experience with the child. And really being able to do that is whenever you know that you met your last stage, which is the peak performer. Now you're able to teach people that might not have a lot of experience or maybe just new to the organization, and you're able to train them and teach them how to do those day-to-day functions that at one time you were even unsure about. And maybe you won't have the opportunity to meet with another volunteer or somebody that's that's been at the program less time than what you have. But if you feel like you can adequately describe what you do day to day, and you feel like you know how to problem solve yourself, then I feel like you've hit that peak performer. You're able to make a larger contribution to the program in general just because you're able to head-on tackle things. And that's really beneficial no matter where you're at. Even if you're in school and you realize that, like, I have questions about this and that, rather than directly going to the professor, you're able to answer those questions by yourself. That's really beneficial. You're saving your time as well as your professor's time, as well as your site supervisor's time. Okay, so some tips to be able to keep in mind with self-care is to set good boundaries. So embrace your total strengths, or embrace your total self, strengths and vulnerabilities. Exercise your mind and play regularly. Know what relaxes you. So as far as like exercising your mind and play regularly, something that I personally like to do, I really like to run. I really like to do yoga, and I really like to do Sudoku. And I always those are things that I do regularly, and any time that I feel like maybe I just need a moment within my day, or maybe I just feel really stressed out and I'm not at the point where I'm able to talk about it without being emotional, then I'll go for a run. Being able to know whenever you need to take time for yourself is really important. And being able to know what helps you relax is really good as well. So like I know that if I'm really frustrated, doing a puzzle is probably not going to help me because I'll probably get even more frustrated and just get mad at the puzzle. But if I were to go on a run or just go on a walk, then that would be really beneficial for me at that moment. So being able to understand what helps relax you in different ways, because not every activity is going to help you in the same way. So really understanding that. And then really making a checklist of small projects that you can definitely accomplish. Get to know your hobbies and keep them with you. It's probably one of the best pieces of advice that I've ever received from somebody older than me, is to have a lot of hobbies throughout your life. The ones that you truly enjoy will stick with you the longest throughout your life. But it's always a great thing to have. And along with that, the second piece of advice to that was to have relationships. Always have friendships and good relationships to be able to communicate through and also just to feel supported by. So understanding your hobbies, whether that be crocheting, whether that be basketball, whether it's axe throwing. I know axe throwing is kind of getting into a thing, or at least in the Dallas area. Whatever it may be, just make sure that they're positive hobbies, right? We want to make sure that they're things that are beneficial to us. Maybe if you have a hobby and it's going out to the bar and drinking, maybe that's not so much of a beneficial hobby as taking a walk in your neighborhood is, or a hobby that could be really beneficial just to your health and also just to your mindset. But in the same token, also having people to reach out to. So fellow AmeriCorps members, your supervisor, friends, family, and if you don't have anybody at all to reach out to, maybe even just a pet. Occasionally, I have 2 guinea pigs. Occasionally, I'll talk to them before I go to bed, just to kind of recap myself, and also just to speak things into existence, just to help me feel better about my day. So definitely communicating, even if it's just to yourself or to an inanimate object. But if you do have somebody to communicate to, like a person, that'll be the most beneficial, because then you can also get feedback, conversation about the feelings that you have, and being able to feel more supported. I definitely recommend that, especially through your AmeriCorps members that you're serving with. Carry out that friendship that you've made. It doesn't just have to be during this summer. Carry it out for future time. You know, if you're both out of town during the fall because you both leave for school, then plan to, you know, whenever you come back in the winter time, that you'll meet up and grab coffee and just talk. Maybe de-stress from, you know, the finals that y'all had, or, you know, whatever made y'all friends throughout your service term. Continue that. It's really important throughout life to be able to have people that you trust and that you respect, to be able to openly and honestly communicate to, especially with things that stress you, because a lot of times the things that stress you are very personal. So being able to have those relationships are already established is really beneficial. Okay. For Texas members, I'm not entirely sure if we offer this to national members, but All One Health is a member service program that is offered to you. You can call the 1-877 number anytime, day or night, and they have on-call master degree therapists that you can talk to if you need support that goes beyond what your supervisor or what your friends can do. They are also a great line of support if you need any type of support, whether that be legal, whether if you're just looking for a food bank near you, if you're interested in getting SNAP, or if you're interested in applying for food stamps, anything like that. You can also call this number and they will help you work through that and assist you through that. If you're interested in getting medical coverage, anything that is really beneficial to you or the service, they can help you have access to that, or at least give you the information that you need. It's a really great tool to use. You can request to talk to the same person consistently. You will have to know kind of their schedule to be able to talk with them consistently, but you can request for that to happen. Along with that is completely confidential. Equal Heart and or AmeriCorps do not know if you called, not get any record of who uses it or anything like that. It's just completely free and completely there for the members for any type of support that you might need. Yeah, I know that it's for Texas members. I'm not entirely sure if it's for national. Whenever I send out the recordings, I will make sure to include if it's for national or not. So right now, I do not remember off the top of my head. But definitely a good resource for all of our Texas members, and I need to check out national, but great resource to use. Okay. So right now, I'm going to go ahead and open up the chat box for questions. If you have any questions, feel free to type them in. I'll give you a couple minutes to get them in. I do see a comment of got a bachelor's in accounting, but turns out I hated working behind a desk. I completely get that. I went to school for agriculture, economics, and business, and then find out that I was just like, maybe like accounting and business wasn't really for me. So I definitely wanted to go into a space of doing more community engagement work and truly making a difference. So it ended up leading me into the nonprofit sector, and really a big eye opener whenever I did my AmeriCorps term. So I definitely get that sometimes. You end up going to school, or you end up, committing yourself to a certain career path, and then you taste it out, or you finally had a chance to really get an inside look at it, and you're like, oh, this is it. No, maybe this isn't for me. And that's completely fine. That's really growing into who you are and realizing your strengths. Have a comment from another member say, just do what you love and you'll never work a day in your life because it is your passion. And that is so true. Definitely tying back to our previous webinar, how to create a compelling resume, and talking about really looking for things that line up with what you want to do, not just because you're there for the money or you're there because you need to do something, but really lining up with your ethics and your values that you live by every day. Okay, I'll give it a couple more minutes, see if any other questions come in. Okay, I'm not seeing any other questions, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up. If you, for whatever reason, have any questions or concerns after this webinar, feel free to reach out to me. My contact information is on the screen now. And if you, at any point in time, need somebody to talk to, or if you are looking for resources that you might need help with, you can also reach out to me with that. I'm more than willing to assist you in any way that I can. Definitely here as a line of support should you need it. We'll be getting started with our last webinar, which we'll be closing out with budgeting. Here at, oh man, okay, we're going to bump it up by 15 minutes, just about. So we'll get started here at 3:15. So please, I do ask that you stay on with us. If you've been here all day, then more power to you. You've got quite a bit of information all throughout this one day. But we'll be closing our webinar series with our next one starting at 3:15, covering budgeting. So look forward to seeing you all there if you're heading out, and I hope you have a great weekend. But we'll be back on at 3:15.